Anyone searching for cruises is likely to run across two lines that offer some of the least expensive trips ever: Carnival and MSC. As a result, many people see the two lines offering some similar trips and wonder how they compare. Now, having sailed both, I have some insight into what you can expect on board the cruise lines, including some of the major differences that you should know before you book one over the other. Before I dive in, I want to share my excitement that Cruzely is about to hit 100,000 subscribers. So if you find something about this video informational or you learned something, then I hope that you'll join up and help reach that 100K goal. If you live in the United States, you might be surprised to learn that MSC actually has a fleet that is comparable in size to Carnival. Both lines, they offer more than 20 ships, with Carnival's fleet being slightly larger overall than MSC. The difference is that MSC isn't nearly as focused on the North American market, although it continues to make a strong push. As a result, the number of ships you can sail from US cruise ports on MSC, it's far fewer than Carnival. For example, in 2025, I found 7 ships from MSC sailing from US ports. Carnival offers trips aboard 26 vessels according to its schedule. Bottom line, if the ship that you sail is important to you, then you'll have a lot more options on Carnival than MSC. That goes for everything from the older, smaller ships to the newest and largest in the fleet. Similar to the number of ships sailing in the United States, there are major differences between MSC and Carnival when it comes to departure ports. Make no mistake, Carnival is a US focused line. MSC, they are much more global in nature. In fact, MSC sails from only 3 US ports: Miami, Port Canaveral, and New York. Galveston will be added in 2025. Carnival sails from countless ports, including the same ones as MSC, plus spots like Seattle and LA, New Orleans, Tampa, Baltimore, and more. If you don't live in Florida or New York and you want to be able to drive to the port instead of flying, then Carnival will be your best bet. If you want to sail more internationally, your options are much greater on MSC, and I have more on that later in this video. I mentioned that both Carnival and MSC offer some of the least expensive cruises, but in my searches, one is definitely less expensive. A search of Carnival's website shows the least expensive cruises from the US starting around $170 to $180 per person for an interior cabin on a 3 or 4 night cruise. You'd of course have to double that for 2 people and then add in those taxes and fees. Still, it is a low price for any vacation. MSC, they start as little as $120 for a 2-night cruise and $150 for 3 nights. That's just an unbelievable fare, but it's only the start of where you'll find deals. Carnival's least expensive 7-day cruise I found from the US was $449 per person before all the extras. On MSC, they start as low as $299 per person, with even more options around $330. So both are affordable, but MSC may surprise you that it's just on another level when it comes to low fares. While both lines aim to appeal to families and vacationers hunting for value, there's a lot of difference in the passenger base based on my sailings. Specifically, while the difference does seem to be narrowing in my opinion, Carnival's passenger base seems much more American than MSC. Being a line with a major presence in other parts of the world, I found that the passengers on MSC, they seem to be more from Europe and South America on the sailings that I've taken. In fact, announcements were in 5 different languages on my first cruise with the line to make sure that everyone understood. I will say that a more recent cruise saw less of a difference as the cruise line establishes an identity in the US and it gradually appeals to more and more Americans. But I wouldn't say that the passenger groups on Carnival and MSC are the same by a long shot. The entertainment on a cruise is a major part of your experience. Here, there is a big difference between Carnival and MSC. On Carnival, you have a lot of classic style shows and game shows. For instance, a recent cruise included live Family Feud with passengers playing the part as contestants. Then there's the Love and Marriage game show, which is a take on the Newlywed Game, and those large-scale production shows with lots of singing and dancing. Now, I've loved MSC's programming, but it certainly has a different feel to me. At least on the ships that I've been on, the shows have more of an acrobatic feel that focus less on Broadway-style performances and more on amazing performers similar to Cirque du Soleil. I also have to especially mention a Michael Jackson tribute show that featured the songs of the King of Pop and an impersonator that was a dead ringer for the late singer. So both are entertaining, but it's definitely a different style between the two. Now both cruise lines, they offer private destinations. Carnival in particular has quite a few actually, including private areas in the Bahamas, the Dominican Republic, and Roatan. To be sure, any visit to these spots will be a good time, as they are tailor-made for cruise passengers. I do have to give special mention, however, to MSC's Ocean Key. The cruise line, they spent hundreds of millions of dollars developing this island in the Bahamas. It's an enormous spot with tons of space for everyone, has beautiful beaches, and the most gorgeous water you can imagine. While many cruise line islands are essentially theme parks, Ocean Key is much more relaxing and subdued. If you're wanting a chilled out beach day, this is it. One other perk, MSC often has extended stays at Ocean Key, including some trips that stay overnight. The ability to enjoy the island at night is something unique to the cruise line. Now, I will say Carnival's upcoming Celebration Key, it will be a game changer for the cruise line, but that's not until 2025. For now, Ocean Key is the top to me. What's a cruise without food? It is a major part of the overall experience and also a difference between these two cruise lines. To me, Carnival is one of the most generous lines when it comes to food. Yes, there are paid options like the steakhouse and the high-end dining, but there are plentiful free options included with your fare. Of course, there's the buffet and the main dining room, just like always. But Carnival also offers Guy's Burger Joint. They have pizza, a deli, Blue Iguana, and some ships have shebang, which is Asian Mexican fusion, and even have big chicken. MSC, at least on the ships that I've sailed, they have far fewer options. There's the buffet and the dining room, and everything else offered was a specialty restaurant. As well, I noticed that in general, there were fewer restaurants overall. That will change with the bigger ships, but Carnival seems to offer more dining options. One difference I've noticed sailing both MSC and Carnival is one that's actually a little hard to explain, but it does have an impact on the feel of your cruise. So every cruise line, they have their own venues on board. For instance, Carnival has areas like Guy's Burger Joint or the Red Frog Pub. Royal Caribbean, they have Lime and Coconut, Serenos, and Playmakers. These areas, they all have their own theme, their own style, and their menus. I've noticed that MSC feels more generic in their venues. Yes, the bars and restaurants, they have different names, but the vibe and the theme, it's not as unique from spot to spot around the ship. For instance, on a recent cruise aboard MSC Seaside, I stopped and enjoyed some time in the ship's sports bar, which is aptly named Sports Bar. Don't get me wrong, it was a nice spot to hang out, but the theme and the feel of it is just not as distinct as something that would be on Carnival. If you're traveling with children, then a little known way that you can save some money on MSC versus Carnival is when it comes to gratuities. First off, both cruise lines, they charge the same daily rate for sailing to the Caribbean. It's currently $16 per person per day for most rooms. And if you're traveling with infants or toddlers, then both have no gratuities for passengers under 2 years old. But if you are taking a family vacation, MSC may offer a nice value. Carnival charges the same gratuity rate for all passengers over 2 years old. MSC, however, charges $8 per day for kids from 2 to 12 years when sailing the Caribbean. So a family of 4 with 2 kids under 12, they would end up paying $336 for gratuities on a 7-day MSC cruise, but $448 on Carnival. Now that's a decent chunk of change that you can save by sailing with MSC. Drink packages are a popular item for some passengers. For one set daily price, you don't have to worry about a bar tab, and you just get what you want from the bar whenever you want it. Carnival, however, has a much simpler offering. They offer only one package for alcoholic drinks, and the price varies depending on the length of the cruise, with one price for cruises under 6 days, and another price for trips 6 days or longer. There's also a limit of 15 alcoholic drinks per day. MSC offers 3 different packages: the Easy, Easy Plus, and Premium Extra. These 3 packages, they provide drinks at different price points, and that can make things more complicated for cruise passengers as they need to do some analysis to compare the differently priced packages with what's included. Personally, I prefer that simplicity that comes with only having one package instead of trying to do the drink package calculus on different packages like you see on MSC. Now, if you've ever sailed Carnival, then you know that there are people that treat the cruise line like a religion. They have high status with the cards that show it off. They have pins showing off their past cruises, Carnival clothing, and they love to talk about which ships they've been on and which ship they're headed on next. In fact, I'd argue that no other cruise line quite has the loyalty that Carnival seems to endear. These superfans, they eat, sleep, and breathe all things Carnival. MSC, however, is much more low-key. You'll see far fewer people flashing their loyalty status or wearing clothing emblazoned with the MSC logo. Part of this is just the fact that the cruise line is relatively small compared to Carnival here, and they don't have the history sailing in the United States. There hasn't been the ability to build up as deep of a fan base as Carnival has. But more than that, there's just something about Carnival that makes its passengers just genuinely love the line. I mentioned how MSC is making inroads into the United States, but it's still a relatively small player compared to Carnival. Well, one difference between the two lines is that you can flip that status in other parts of the world. MSC is truly a global cruise line with major operations in Europe, the Middle East, and elsewhere. If you're wanting to sail somewhere other than the Caribbean or the Bahamas, then it would offer way more options. Carnival is much more focused on the US, some cruises in Australia, and a few dotted in Europe. There are sister brands elsewhere around the world, such as Costa, but I wouldn't call Carnival a global cruise line just yet. Thank you for watching, and if you found this video helpful, then I hope that you'll join up and subscribe as we reach 100,000 subscribers. For more on all things cruising, you can visit Cruzely.com, and until next time, happy sailing.